Welcome back to Half the Battle. I'm your host, as always, Daniel Levy, and today we're going to talk about UFC Vegas 93, Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira. And my friends, it's going down this Saturday night live at the Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. You got a top 5 flyweight and Alex Perez taking on the up-and-coming undefeated Japanese prospect, Tatsuro Taira, who's trying to fly right into the top 5 against someone in Alex Perez who's really turned things around. I mean, don't get me wrong. Alex Perez has been ranked in the heat of things for a long-ass time, but now, you know, people were counting him out, myself included. He had a not-so-bad performance against Mokaev, and then he goes out there and beats Nicolau in an upset. Now he's got another main event. This guy's really making up for lost time, but he's got a phenom in front of him. So I cannot wait to break down this main event and the card. There's some hidden gems on here. So without further ado,
let's get down to business. Give you one more night to get this. We've had a million nights just like this. So let's get down to business.
Main event of the evening in the flyweight division. We got Alex Perez. He's 25-8, taking on Tatsuro Taira, who's 15-0. And currently, they got it. Tatsuro Taira minus 185. The comeback on Alex Perez is plus 160. So again, with Alex Perez, he's a guy that we were kind of questioning if maybe he had a foot out the door, maybe if he wasn't feeling this anymore, because like, look, there's no shame in losing to Pantoja and Davison. It's how he lost to those guys. It wasn't even remotely competitive. Just got ran through, you know, was always pulling out of fights day of against like Manel Cap and all these things. So we were just thinking like, hey, man, you had a great run. Now it's time to go open up your acai business and go do your thing. And he said, nah, he's like, I got one more in me, you know, and that Mokaev fight, I didn't think was the best performance on either side, but like, going into it, I was thinking Perez just gonna come out here, get tapped out real quick. We're gonna move on to, you know, to Mokaev getting a title shot against Pantoja, but the fight was not the most crowd pleasing fight. So they were like, you know what? Let's give Steve Erceg the title shot. So Mokaev lost the title shot, and now he's fighting Manel Cap for a #1 contender fight. Winner of that is gonna get the title shot against Pantoja at the end of the year. But here, man, so Perez, I got to give him credit, man, to, you know, be a guy that we were kind of like, hey, man, maybe he's seen better days. Have that competitive fight with Mokaev, come out there in a main event against Nicolau, and knock him out. And like, we can talk about Nicolau's chin and this and that, but dude, it was more than that. It was the angle that Alex Perez cut, and man, his timing of when you know, Nicolau eventually dropped his blocking hand, and that's when, man, Alex was able to cut that angle and land that devastating shot that closed the show. That wasn't about Nicolau's chin. That was about great timing, great footwork, great job cutting the angle, and just precise on the punch by Alex. So credit where credit's due. This kid Taira is different, man. This kid Taira, like, we've been waiting for a Japanese prospect for how long? You know, we thought Japanese Connor, we'll talk about him in the Fugit fight. He didn't pan out. So now we got this kid who's coming out here. Is 5-0 in the UFC. Most of those wins are by finish. And like, he's coming out here and he's got his own style, man. Like, he's big for the weight class, 5'7" with a 70-inch reach. So this guy's got a longer reach than Max Holloway, and he's a flyweight. And I really like his defense. He doesn't get hit that much, and he doesn't have the highest amount of volume, but like, he makes it count when he throws. He's got very heavy kicks. His knees are on point, and he's starting to feel a little more comfortable with his hands, as you saw in that last fight against Carlos Hernandez. And then on the mat, this kid is slick. So I'm just curious about the dynamic of this fight, because I do think that Alex Perez is a better boxer and is a better wrestler than Tatsuro. But in that being said, Tatsuro kind of keeping it long with the kicks, with the knees, and then they get into some grappling situations. I'm curious if Tatsuro gets around the neck of Perez, if, you know, is Perez going to fight out of that? Because in the past, he has been a quick tapper, but lately I've liked what I've been seeing. So you can't write off the possibility of a vet lesson. Like, Taira's young. I think Taira is going to make a run one day. It's just, how old's my boy Taira? This dude was born in year 2000. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, he's literally just a kid. So, but I like the progression. I like the maturity. So it could be first all time, but you know what? I'm going to pick Taira to come out here and get past Perez, possibly by submission, because I have been seeing those leaps every single fight. I feel like they brought him along the right way. They didn't just throw him to the wolves and just get him ran through and, take away all his confidence. They've given him the perfect incremental step ups in competition. And just like kind of guys where, when you bring in a kid who was born in year 2000, you got to let him get his feet wet. You got to let him like develop himself. Like, remember, what they did with Sage Northcutt? Dude just wasn't ready. Like, here, they're developing this guy perfectly. You got these 5 wins under your belt. Now we're going to test you against a perennial top 10 guy and see where you fit right now. So, hell of a fight. Would be cool to see Alex continue his resurgence, which was unexpected, but would also be great to see Taira start to make his ascension towards the top, because he is a bright prospect and he does have a country behind him. So hell of a fight. I'm going to lean towards Taira with his opportunistic finishing ability, let alone with the submissions, particularly. Now, co-main event of the evening in the middleweight division, we got Ikram Aliskerov. He's 15-1, taking on Antonio Tricoli, who's 12-3. Currently, they got it. Ikram Aliskerov minus 1,400. The comeback on Antonio Tricoli is plus 800. So y'all know about Ikram, badass Russian prospect, been doing his thing, good everywhere. Kimuras, knockouts. I mean, the guy's he's the complete package. His only losses to Hamzat on his regional scene. I like everything about Ikram, in terms of like he could be if he's not already in the top 15, he's going to be in the top 15, possibly the top 10. And the thing with this dude, Antonio Tricoli, funnily enough, I actually watched this guy fight live in the NFC in Atlanta. So hear me out. So this dude, so he fights Diego Lima in the NFC, but if you look on Tapology, it says Legacy FC 53. So before LFA was called LFA, they were called Legacy. But when they came to Atlanta, it was basically a NFC card, but they just had, and it was at the NFC venue. It had the NFC fighters, but they had like the LFA or Legacy production, but it was just a glorified NFC event. So, co-main event was, former training partner of mine, Dave Vitke, my boy, was 3-0 and holds record for the third fastest submission in Bellator history. Check that out, and then Diego Lima, brother of Douglas, was in the main event against Antonio Tricoli. And guys, this was at 170. This dude Tricoli is 6'5". Now he's moving up. What is this fight's at 85 with Ikram? Yeah, it's at 85, and I've seen this guy fight at 205 before too. So he's a big boy, and he tested positive for steroids. That's why he's been off for so long. But like when I saw him fight Diego Lima at Center Stage in Atlanta, Georgia, I was like, wow, he's 6'5", but it's like there's like not much substance in the game. Like if you're not ready for him, yeah, he can run through you. He's got so many physical attributes, and he is skilled, and he's topping Mackenzie Dern. So man to man, hey, tip my cap, credit my boy. But no, in all seriousness, there's just such a massive step up in competition, and Tricoli hasn't been active. He hasn't really been doing his thing, man. Like and I just never really thought that he was a guy when I saw him on the NFC that had the trajectory to make it to like that fight he had with Diego Lima that was bad. And I think Ikram has the possibility to come out here. And I mean, I'm not a genius picking a minus 1,500 favorite, but just saying Ikram can cover this price tag and then some. So yeah, I'm gonna go Ikram. Featured bout in the featherweight division, we got Lucas Almeida. He's 14-3, taking on Timmy Kuamba, who's 8-2. Currently, they got it. Timmy Kuamba minus 200. The comeback on Lucas is plus 165. If you're giving me the Lucas from those first few fights, like the fight he had with Daniel Zellhuber, the fight he had with Trizano, just the max effort, I love it. He's a bruiser. He goes out there. He likes to brawl. He likes to get in your face, get down and dirty. I love things like that. But those last two fights against Sabatini and against Feely, look, it's not about holding a loss against the fighter. Fighters take losses all the time. It's about how he performed in those losses. Let me pull up the stats because they were very, very red flaggy. Like, okay, so against Daniel Zellhuber, my boy Lucas Almeida's coming out here. You know what I'm saying? Like throwing over 220 strikes, right? Like that's the volume I like. Against Trezano, he gets 2 knockdowns that they're going out there having an absolute war, get a fight of the night. You're like, okay, I like what I'm seeing. But then against Sabatini, and you can call it a bad matchup all you want, but when you're fighting for what, about close to 7 minutes of a fight and you've only landed 2 strikes, like there was something off. And I also noticed something like in his physique. Like, I don't know if he's looking like skinnier. I don't know if he's got a health thing that he hasn't disclosed, but it's not just about the fact that he lost to Sabatini. Like, you can lose fights and look good in them, but when you lose a fight and you only land 2 strikes, and then the next fight against Fili, like, yeah, the knockout was great, you know, Fili's experience, but like even up until the knockout, like Lucas was looking so stiff and like head straight up in the air. Like it wasn't the guy I saw against Zellhuber and Trezano. You could say it's a style thing, but it's like, okay, it's one thing to lose, but like, show me something. Land more than 2 strikes. Like, give me that effort. But I just didn't see like, I think there's a medical thing. I'm not a doctor, so y'all, you know, I could be way off about that, but I just haven't seen what I wanted to see these last 2 from Lucas. And with Timmy, the thing that you got to understand about Timmy is he's, again, just a kid, born in 1999. He's still figuring things out. And he's kind of a more play it safe guy, but he's really technically sound. Doesn't take too many unnecessary risks, but he knows how to fight everywhere the fight goes. Just, you know, again, not the most physical guy, but like I do think he has some potential just in terms of like he could probably stick around. Just some of these fights have been a little underwhelming, but granted, he did fight some tough opponents. That Mateo Vogel guy he beat on Contender Series, regardless of if you think that's a bad decision or not, Vogel's one of those guys that like he can take that ass whooping up front, and if he's still there, he slow cooks guys. Like Vogel's one of those guys. He did that to Garrett Armfield, who's also on this card. And then the Oki fight, I think there was a big size difference there. Oki's a big athletic, you know, young man. So here it's like Timmy is going to be the more like technically sound guy, but more of like a play it safe guy. And then with Lucas at his best takes more risks, but these last 2 fights, he hasn't taken any risk. And that's why I have that speculation of maybe some kind of health issue, or I could be just way off about it. So I'm going to pass at these odds, but if you think that Lucas is going to show up like the guy that fought Zellhuber and the guy that fought Trezano, he's a live dog. But if he's just going to kind of sit back and not do much, Timmy should be able to pick him apart and mix in some wrestling too. In that fight he had between Contender Series and in his UFC debut, like he had a little regional fight. I mean, he was landing takedowns, he was landing head kicks, like he was doing his thing. So, yeah, I kind of like what I'm seeing from the kid. It's just again, seasoning, experience, like these things count for a lot. And I want to see this kid just start to feel like the octagon is his home. And I'm hoping that Lucas can turn things around because I enjoy watching Lucas when he's at his best. But if there truly is like a health issue or something, then it's just unfortunate. The fight game is so brutal. So yeah, I'm gonna go Timmy there. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a matchup between Miles Johns. He's 14-2, taking on Douglas Silva de Andrade, who's 29-5. Currently, they got it. Miles Johns minus 125. The comeback on Douglas Silva de Andrade. I love that name. Is plus 105. So, you know, I've had a love and hate relationship with Miles Johns because it's like when he came to the UFC and Dana White called him a savage and like, listen, man, he's got a lot of tools. He's a physical guy. He's athletic. He can crack. He can wrestle. He can do a lot. But the output is such on the lower side. And he's got that kind of Tyron Woodley-esque thing, backs himself into the fence, waits for that one big overhand right, will be kind of like 50-50 on like a round, and we'll try to steal it with a takedown, which I like stuff like that, but I kind of want to see more effort from Miles Johns. And I want to say this because so he moved camps, right? Like he left Fortis and he's training with is it Trey Ogden and Garrett Armfield in them? I'm pretty sure. But like you look at these last couple fights that that Johns has had. And like from memory, I was like, man, like Johns has looked like, hey, maybe he's turning a corner. Like maybe he's starting to really put it together. But when you look at the numbers say that it's the exact same Miles Johns that it has always been. I mean, you look at his last fight against Cody Gibson, only 25 significant strikes landed. Like that's not good, man. Against Dan Argueta, I know he did his thing there, but like the strike counts are so damn low. Um, and when you fight at such close margins against an experienced seasoned guy like Douglas D. Silva, like who's been in there with everyone, and even in like fights where I think he might have lost, like the Stamen fight, I was there. I know when you watch it on TV, it's a little different, but when you're there in person, like we kind of all thought Stamen won. Stamen got a knockdown. Stamen was doing his thing, but it was another close fight. And you got to mention that my boy Douglas D. Silva is getting up there. He's got to be what, 38, 39 by now. I'm gonna leave with Miles Johns, but I'm not like I was kind of thinking like, oh, Miles turned a corner, but again, you look at these numbers and it's all been a stylistic thing. Like he's still not putting up the numbers I want. He still likes those slow paced fights, but luckily for him, Douglas likes those too, and Douglas is getting up there. So yeah, I could see this being like, I could see it being a 1-1 going into round 3, and Douglas maybe capitalizes on a gassed out Miles Johns, but I could also see a little just like I really see it being a low output fight, and that's what Miles Johns likes, and he's the more physical and the younger guy here, who's got some confidence right now. So it's a tough one, but I'm going to lean with Miles Johns here. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Asu Almabayev. He's 19-2. Taking on Jose Johnson, who's 16-8. And for those that don't know, this fight's at flyweight, and this is Jose Johnson's first drop to flyweight that I know of. The guy's 6 foot tall with a 71.5-inch reach. So a lot of people are questioning, oh man, how's this guy gonna make flyweight? Honestly, I think he's gonna make it. If anyone wants to have like a friendly wager with me about is he gonna make it or not, I'll say he makes it. Even if he misses on his first try, I'll say he makes it on the second try. But what I'm trying to say is that when the official, weights are listed, this man is going to be on weight and won't have to pay a percentage of his fine. Now, it could be way off, but if anyone wants to take, whether it's a profile pick bet, a little beer money bet, a shout out, I don't fucking know. But if y'all think that Jose Johnson's going to miss weight, I'm saying he's going to make weight. So if any of y'all want to have a little friendly bet with me on there, just let me know about that. So what's interesting, did I mention the odds? The odds are Asu minus 600. The comeback on Jose is plus 425. It's funny. Anytime there's a guy named Jose, we start calling them Jose because of the great Jose Aldo. But listen, Almabayev's an interesting cat because like I was not impressed with his regional scenes, man. Like going to split decisions with Zach Makovsky, who's a UFC vet, but who's a 41-year-old. You understand what I'm saying here? And then he comes to the UFC, he just runs through O'Day Osborne, man. And which, at this point in time isn't the biggest, feat or whatever, but still handled him accordingly. The CJ Vergara fight did his thing. So here against Jose Johnson, Jose does give up a lot of takedowns, but I think that people kind of try to act like he's a novice on the mat. He's not a novice on the mat. What you understand, he's one of these big, like noodly guys. I mean, 6 feet tall at flyweight. He's going to give up takedowns, but the guy can scramble too. And on the feet, man, when he fights at his range, his kicks, his combos are absolutely disgusting, man. So, I mean, I think the times that this is standing, as long as he's not so like gun shy by the threat of the takedown, I do think that Jose Johnson can have success here. It's just about when Asu takes him down, what's going to happen there? Is he going to play in Jose's guard? Is he going to dominate and possibly submit him? Like that's what remains to be seen. So yeah, sure, as pure pick, yeah, I'll take the minus 600 favorite, but this is a dogger pass situation, and I think people are maybe sleeping on Jose a little bit. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm gonna take the favorite, but I think it's dogger pass for sure. Now, next up in the welterweight division, we got a matchup between between Adam Fugit, he's 9-4, taking on Josh Quinlan, who's 6-2. Currently, they got it Josh Quinlan minus 125. The comeback on Adam Fugit is plus 105. Um, so both guys are 1-2 in the UFC. That means that this is the fourth fight of their contracts. That means they're fighting for their jobs here. So who belongs and who doesn't belong? My thing with Fugit is probably seems like the more intelligent guy, a little bit more experienced. But man, he is so not athletic that it's really gonna cost him at the UFC level, man. Like the guy's slow. He's got some sneaky head kicks and some good techniques, but like just the athleticism is just not there. And I have been surprised by some of his wins, like the Solomon Renfro one. I did not expect that, but even that, didn't he just spam kick after kick after kick, and then just got a knockout there? I was like, damn, I was surprised about that. Like, even the Michael Morales fight, like even though he got the shit beat out of him, he lasted longer than I expected against Japanese Connor, who was my favorite Japanese prospect at the time. I mean, you watch Japanese Connor's regionals, that dude was brutal. Like that dude's only loss on regionals was him stomping a mofo out. You know what I'm saying? So like Japanese Connor was looking vicious. Even on his Contender Series fight, he looks great. And then I guess just has stage fright or something. He's too young. I don't know. Can't perform under the bright lights. And Fuga did his thing there. But then against Malat, like when you make Mike Malat look like a super athlete, like super prospect, like a future champ, and then Malat's very next fight, the ghost of Neil Magny's, embarrassing him like that. Like I just really don't think Fugit. And again, I hate, putting caps on people's careers or, trying to act like I'm crushing their dreams or because I think you should dream big and I think you should go for it. But we just have to be honest on shows like this where we're picking, we're betting, we're analyzing and or analyzing. And like I just don't see it with Fugit long term at the UFC level. I really don't. The athleticism's not there. He's too slow, too hittable. The chin isn't the best. Like what exactly do you like about Fugit? He's got some hard kicks. I'll give him that. He's been in there with some tough guys. I'll give him that. But like, I don't know. I just don't see it panning out. And then with Quinlan on the other side, I got some shit to say about Quinlan too, man. I mean, like, how many steroid tests you gonna fail, my boy? You know what I mean? But to Quinlan's credit, like you went from fighting Trey Waters, who's a 6'5" brother, and then you go to fight Danny Barlow, who like is like a freak athlete, like stud prospect. And now you go from those two guys, 6'5" Trey Waters, freak athlete Barlow. Here's like the least athletic guy on the roster, Adam Fugit. Like Quinlan, like now you're the more athletic guy. Now you're the harder hitter here. Like you're the black belt. Fugit's the brown belt here. So I don't know, man. Like, both these guys are fighting for their jobs, and I'd love my boy Jared Gooden to get to fight both these guys. Get two easy wins under his belt because like Jared comes in the UFC, he's fighting fucking Alan Jubanin, Randy Brown, and a Nurmagomedov and Carlston Harris and Wellington Turman. Hey, can we get like a Quinlan? Can we get a Fugit? Like, fuck it, give us Fugit. You know what I mean, dude? Like. So yeah, I'm gonna go Quinlan here just because I think he's got the power advantage, the athleticism advantage. But nothing will surprise me here. He's coming off a brutal loss, but a brutal loss to like a real prospect. Fugit is not a real prospect. Fugit, again, I just don't like disrespecting people in the sense that like this is how they make their money. Like you don't want to see someone lose their job, but you just as a betting and pick show, you just have to be brutally honest about where you cap their trajectories. And I don't see neither going that far, but Fugit even less. So I'm gonna go Quinlan in this spot. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a matchup between Tagir Ulanbekov. He's 15-2, taking on Joshua Van, who's 15-1. Should I call Cody Durden? See what he says about this fight? I don't know if he's gonna answer or not, but he might be at practice right now. But let's see it. Let's see what my boy Cody picks up because he fought Tagir recently and he knows who Van is.
Please leave your message for.
Okay, yeah. So he's probably sparring with Pantoja right now, but I am curious about his opinion because he fought Tagir recently. He got to feel what that was all about, and then Van is someone that Cody's always been calling out because he thinks that he's catching him at a good time and he could give him some vet lessons. So I'd be curious to hear his take on this fight, but I have my own take on this fight, and my take is this. How can you not be a fan of Josh Van? I mean, the guy goes out there, he fights how you want your favorite fighters to fight. It's like a hybrid of like a Ravi Lawler meets like a Ray Cooper meets like a Peter Yan, but he's still young, so give him a little credit. And people were talking about how, oh, he got choked out when he was 20 years old, so how is he going to not get choked out by Tagir? I think he might get choked out by Tagir, but I don't think that has anything to do with him getting choked out when he was 20 by some random guy. Like, guys, you got to understand, when you're 20 years old, that leap to 22 years old and then 23, 24, like, bro, here's where these kids are going to be making insane leaps. So if you think you're getting that guy from that regional scene that lost, you're not. But that being said, I just think that Tagir is on a different level right now. The physicality, like, bro, if you pull up Tagir's last two fights against Manis and then against Cody, like, first of all, the size he had in the Cody fight, like, I don't know if y'all know, like, y'all noticed at the weigh-ins, he had like the little Band-Aid on his vein because my boy was hitting them IVs. Like, dude, him and Cody were listed around the same, like, measurables, height, reach, and blah, blah, blah. And like, they get in there, like, Tagir is like 3 inches taller. Like, Tagir looked like, oh, fuck, like, this guy might end his career at bantamweight. Like, he was looking big, dude. And his striking has gone a lot better. It's just kind of when he's a little more fatigued, he will bite on feints a lot. So yeah, there is a threat on the feet from Van, especially when Van starts to get things going. He kind of has that Peter Yan thing where, oh, he makes his reads, he downloads data, well, you know what they like to say and whatnot. But when he does get his hands going, he's got a fatigued opponent in front of him up against the cage, then he'll start ripping to the body, then he'll start getting mean. But he's still a young kid, and he does some things that I'm not necessarily sure he's going to try those things in this fight. But there's certain things he tried in that fight against Bunas where, like, he hurt him and then he drops for an ankle lock, and maybe he's just, trying to test things out. But like, it's fine to test those things out against, UFC debutants. You test some things out like that here against Tagir, and you're going to get mauled, my boy. And I think that Tagir is going to willingly pursue the takedowns, and I think he's going to get them too. And his guillotine is so nasty. That guillotine he hit on Manis was that was stupid. That was so good. So I just think Tagir right now, this is going to be a vet lesson. This is going to be one of those where Van takes his setback and he's going to come back and do great things. I got full faith in Van, and I'm a fan of Van, but right now I just think it's Tagir's time. And I think that Tagir gets this win in impressive fashion, one or two more. He's right up there fighting Manel Cap. He's right up there fighting Mokaev. He's right up there, Pantoja. You know what I'm saying? So I think Tagir is someone you got to keep an eye out for like a title shot within the next year, whereas Van is going to start to kind of make his way up the top 10 in the next year. So I just think there are kind of different spots, not to mention the big grappling advantage. And I think Tagir possibly gets a submission here. Guillotine, I'm going to predict. Now, next up also in the flyweight division, speaking of the devil, we got Nate Manis. He's 15-3, taking on Jimmy Flick, who's 17-7. Currently, they got it. Nate Manis minus 500. The comeback on Jimmy Flick is plus 375. So, Nate Manis, another guy who's huge for the weight class, and I was like, dude, how the hell is this guy make 25s? And he's made 25s twice. And the Tagir fight was simply just a bad matchup for him. But I felt like the last fight against Mendonce, going into it, I actually took Mendonce because I thought that, this guy is cutting way too much weight. He's in the wrong weight class, all these things. How's he going to recover? And I didn't exactly get those questions answered because the fight starts off and Mendonce is like going for like, he went full, what, on those leg locks, man, and just got pounded out. That was like a candidate for stun of the year. So that was really bad. But here against Jimmy Flick, it's kind of similar in a sense where like the way he was swimming through, the way Maness was swimming through leg locks against Mendonce, here he's gonna have to, swim through the triangles and stuff like that. And Jimmy Flick is one of these guys that is gonna get the shit beaten out of him every single fight until he gets finished or until he submits you. And there's no middle ground. Like every single guy that he submits, for the most part, they beat the shit out of him first. And every single guy that finishes Flick also beats the shit out of him first. So Flick is going to get his ass beat in this fight. It's just, is Flick going to get his ass beat and get finished, or is Flick going to get his ass beat and find his opportunistic finish, which he is known for? So I'm going to go with Nate Maness here, man. He's got the length here. On the feet, I think he's going to be rangy. I think he's going to be picking him apart. I think he's going to start making him shoot for really sloppy shots. I don't think he's going to be caught by surprise by, sometimes Flick will try to throw in a sneaky high kick or a sneaky overhand to get you thinking, but I don't think that'll be a factor here. And eventually Flick is going to start to pull guards, start to fatigue, start to butt scoop. And from there, I think he gets pounded out again. So I'm going to go with Nate Maness in this spot. Now, next up in the bantamweight division, we got a match between Garrett Armfield, he's 10-3, taking on Brady Heastan, who's 7-2. Currently, they got it. Garrett Armfield minus 180. The comeback on Brady Heastan is plus 155. So, did y'all see that show I had with Garrett Armfield when he hosted the show with me? Interesting personality that guy's got. Interesting personality, but I got to give him credit. He's a guy that's made a lot of improvements. And for someone who, on paper, it seems like he's on the greener side, like I've noticed a big leap in his game last few fights, especially that Katona fight, because like Katona had a serious experience advantage over him. And one thing I've noticed about Garrett is like he hurts every single person he fights, like with that right hand. His head movement's slick. His boxing's gotten a lot better. His volume's gotten up over the years. And like the first time I ever saw Garrett was when he fought Onama, but not in the UFC. They fought in amateurs, and Onama clearly won, but it was like a bantamweight versus a big featherweight. And it was like, okay, like this kid Garrett's going to be in the UFC one day. And I cashed on him against Kazama. So, I'm thankful for that. And then here, against Brady Heastan, what's interesting is Heastan's a very tough, durable guy. He's a relentless grinder. And if there's been one criticism for Garrett Armfield, it's the fact that like it's not that he's got a bad gas tank, it's that his fights require a lot of energy and he goes for it, man. And the times that he's lost, he's slowed down deep into fights, and that's maybe cost him. And the thing with Brady Heastan and that fight he had against Dana Batgeri, Dana was doing his thing, man, until the very end, and Brady stayed in there. That's what you got to be worried about in this spot. A late kind of finish or a late takeover grind by Brady. But I think that if Garrett can keep this standing, he is for sure going to land the better shots, possibly get a knockout. If not, I think he wins a decision. So I'm going to go with Garrett Armfield to win this fight. Now, next up in the flyweight division, we got a match between Gabriela Fernandez. She's 8-3, taking on Carly Judice, who's 3-1. Currently, they got it on Gabriela Fernandez, minus 155. The comeback on Carly Judice is plus 135. Very, very intriguing fight for a couple of reasons. So first of all, Gabriela Fernandez, if you've been watching her, you'll notice that the fight she's been losing, she's been getting taken down and grinded out, and she does not have a get-up game. So it's very unfortunate because she is a physical girl. She's got knockouts. She got 5 finishes on her record, which is something that you love to see. And she won the interim flyweight belt in LFA. So like she did her thing. But like when you fight Jasmine and Teresa Bleda off the bat, like that's a completely different matchup than Carly Judice. Like Bleda and Jasdovicius, how many takedowns did each of them attempt? Let me pull that up for y'all. So against Jasmine Jastovicius. Jasmine attempts 8 takedowns, gets 4 of them, right? Against Teresa Bleda. Teresa attempts 10 takedowns, gets 3 of them. So, like, when you have that approach against Gabriela, you got a good chance to beat her. But here against Carly Judice, I think Carly might be in the wrong weight class. One thing I've noticed about Judice is, like, I'd like to maybe see her drop to straw weight, actually. But I do like her volume. I do like her tenacity. I just think she's kind of small for the weight class, but I love the fact that, like, from that southpaw stance, she's just ripping combos. And those numbers she put up on Contender Series, my man, like 180 total strikes, attempted 311. Shout out to 311, one of my favorite bands. Check out their new song, You're Gonna Get It. Fucking sick song, especially if you like rock music. So, anyways, I like the output from Carly Judice. My issue with Carly Judice in this spot in particular is I think that Gabriel Fernandez is going to be a lot more physical. And it's one of those things where, like, I could see Judy's having the output edge and the volume. Like, when you see the numbers at the end, assuming this goes all 3, I think that Judice is going to outland her, but I think that Gabriel Fernandez is going to have the bigger moments, the more impactful shots, a wobble here and there, mark up the face of Judice, and win the decision that way. So I think that Gabriela Fernandez gets back on track here, and I think Judice has a bright future. I like her a lot, but she's only 3-1 right now. She's got time to learn. She needs to drop to her right weight class. So yeah, I look forward to seeing what she does in the future. But right now, I think Gabriela is a step ahead in experience, and just stylistically, there's not much of a takedown threat from Carly Judice. Now, next up in the featherweight division, we got Jeka Saragi. He's 14-3, taking on Weston Wilson, who's 16-9. Currently, they got it. Jeka Saragi minus 335. The comeback on Weston Wilson's plus 275. So you got a guy that got finished by Anshul Jubilee taking on Weston Wilson. You know, the thing about Weston Wilson is, on the regional scene, he can get away with certain things, right? Like, he's got that karate style, hands down, chin up in the air. He's got the bounce and whatnot. Not the most athletic guy, but, like, again, if you're just a regional kind of journeyman or whatever, he could probably get past you. But at the UFC level, just the athleticism's not there. The head movement's not there. The durability is not there. And the confidence sure as hell can't be there. So it's hard to pick him. And then with Jeka, he's super green. Shout out to him, you know, being from Indonesia, which I'm not sure how many more Indonesian fighters there are on the roster. So it's cool to see, like, the world, you know, exposing their talent. And this kid is a knockout artist, has 9 knockout wins to his record. But he's also very, very green. Like, you watch that fight, yeah, against Lucas Alexander, and it was kind of weird. It's like Lucas gets back up from bottom, but he kind of turns his back a little bit, and then he just got blindsided with a big hook. But up until then, I mean, Lucas actually rocked him in that fight. And, like, I just think Jeka Saragi has a long way to go. He's super green, of course, but the thing is, he's got an opponent in Weston that, like, I bet the UFC matchmakers, like, they took, like, a hat like this. They threw a bunch of names in the hat of, like, the lower level guys in this weight class. And, like, okay, Weston Wilson, this is his last fight in the UFC. Who's a guy that we can get a knockout? You know, who's a guy we can get to knock out Weston Wilson? You know, one of our kind of lower guys that's trying to pay his dues a bit. They took the names in the hat, you know, of all the lower level guys, and they pulled out Jeka Saragi. So, Jeka, congrats, my boy. You won the Weston Wilson sweepstakes. So I think he comes out here and he knocks out Weston Wilson. Now, next up in the strawweight division, we got a matchup between Julia Polastri. She's 12-3, taking on Josephine Knutson, who's 7-0. Currently, they got it. Josephine Knutson. Just depends where you look. Everywhere from minus 175 to minus 200. The comeback on Polastri is everywhere from plus 150 to plus 165. So some would say this price is nuts, son. But here's my thing. I like this Julia Polastri chick. Like, she's mean. She gets down to business. And, like, she likes to brawl. She likes to get in there and, you know, kind of play the mental games with you a little bit. Like, oh, like you threw that at me? That didn't do nothing to me. And then she starts to go off. And then she's got a little sneaky ground game on her too. And she's paid her dues. You know, she fought Jasmine Jastovicius on her first run on Contender Series. You know, that didn't go her way, but Jasmine's a top 15 UFC fighter. So I think there's a lot to like about Pilastri. And then Josephine Knudsen, you know, we've joked around a little bit about certain things, but the reality is that she's a very technically sound Muay Thai fighter. She's kind of like a play it safe fighter. And it's funny, this is another play it safe versus kind of like a take risks type match, which I love those matches. But the thing about it is, at range, Josephine Knudsen is going to be able to capitalize on openings that Pilastri is going to give her standing. Pilastri is there to be hit, and I definitely think that Knudsen can outpoint her. Also, in the clinch, I think that Knudsen can neutralize Pilastri and kind of get off on knees and elbows in the clinch as well. The place where I'm worried is that, listen, this ain't Isis Vanderbeek or Marnik Man anymore. Pilastri is going to come to fight. And if Pilastri can get past this kind of like, you know, technical, getting picked apart type shit and make it like a real brawl, like make this girl have to fight, make this girl finally get tired, make her taste her own blood, then Pilastri does have a chance, but it's very contingent on her making this chaotic. Like she cannot, you try to go point for point with Josephine Knudsen, and that's a nut son game plan. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be absolutely nuts, son. So do not do that. So yeah, I like Pilastri in terms of like, I look forward to watching her, you know, developments and stuff like that. And I think she does have a chance if she can make this fight dirty and gritty. But ultimately, I do think Josephine Knudsen picks her apart. Now, last but not least, in the featherweight division, we got a matchup between Shailan Nurdanbeki, who's 39-11, taking on Melquisael Costa, who's 20-7. Currently, they got it. Shailan, they got it. Mel Costa -190. The comeback on Shailan is +165. I think that Mel Costa is very, very overrated. Like even on his regional scenes, there were like little things missing in that killer instinct that I didn't like to see, and there's just something I don't like about his game, and I don't know if it's the urgency. There's something missing there. But like when he has like a punching bag in front of him, like Lingo, oh man, he can look long, he can look dynamic, he can do some things. But when you stand up to a guy like this, I mean, I literally laid, I think like -300 on Thiago Moises straight against Mel Costa, and he covered that easily. And then Shailan, what's interesting about him, he's a bricked up dude. He's got big power in his hands. He can wrestle. It's just with him, when he's not having his big moments or he's not able to neutralize you, there have been some kind of maybe some gassing issues. The guy is packing a lot of muscle. His style takes a lot of energy. I was kind of surprised how tired he got at the end of the first round against Steve Garcia. But the thing about it is, I do think he's more physical than Mel Costa. I do think he can hurt Mel Costa. It's just about, if you get to that fatigue point, that's where I'm worried about Mel, from distance, ripping big kicks and kind of making him pay a little bit. But I think there's a good chance that Shailan hurts him or at least wins the first round. So I'm going to say it's a dog or pass situation. And I've just never been high on this Costa. So I'm gonna go Shailan to get an upset here. I'm gonna go Shailan. Now we gotta talk about the fight to watch and the fighter to watch. So what is the fight to watch for UFC Vegas 93? I mean, I think that the fight to watch, there's a few of them, but I think the fight to watch is Tagir versus Joshua Van. Listen, Tagir is a guy who, in my opinion, is on his way to a title run. You know, a couple more wins here, you're gonna be fighting for a title, my boy. And Josh Van storms onto the scene. He's this young kid. He's aggressive. He's got this fire about him. He lets his hands go. He fights how the fans want to see him fight. But this is a big step up in competition. If he rises to the occasion and beats Tagir, hey, kid, you're right in the mix. But even if he loses, You go back to the drawing board. You're only 22, 23. Get a couple more wins under your belt, and you'll be right back in the mix, man. Whereas Tagir's already paid those dues, man. Tagir's ready right now. But either way, this is a fight I got my eyes on and for that reason, that is my fight to watch. My fighter to watch, I'm gonna go with I like to not go with main events, but I'm gonna go with Taira. This is a big step up in competition. Let's see how good you really are, my man. Because look, you see the guy he's fought, the Candelarios, the Vergaras, the Aguilars, the Chairas, the Hernandez. Okay, you can say, oh, those guys are nothing like Alex Perez. You're right. They are nothing like Alex Perez, but this is called rising to the occasion. This is called paying your dues and getting to that point, earning the fight with the seasoned vet, Alex Perez. And let's see if you're the goods or not. And again, could it be a situation like Van where maybe Van's not ready right now, but will be down the line? Or is Taira simply ready to make his run now? So I cannot wait to find out. So for that reason, Tatsuro Taira is my fighter to watch. Well, my friends, thank you so much for your support. We did it. It's going on this Saturday. Leave me a comment, smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share if you feel so inclined. Truly, truly support all y'all support. And yeah, thank you. That's all I got to say. Thank you. Thank you. You can follow me on Twitter at Best Fight Picks. You can follow me on Instagram at Half the Battle Pod. Also on Twitter at Half the Battle HQ. So yeah, you can find me anywhere podcasts are found, and I'm always down to interact with anyone that has my back. And thank you guys again for everything. So until the next time, let's cash these bets.